What is India's play in all this? Like, I'm talking to young entrepreneurs in India. Where does India fit in? You can be candid. Don't say on camera, I won't say this, that, and the other. I think a big problem in many parts of life is when we don't recognize that there is a problem. I don't think you can find a solution if you don't first get there.
And that's where I think what you mentioned before is important. Like having a knowledge of where the trends are happening and where, the growth is going to be. Sure, you always want to play, for your strengths, but isn't it even more amazing when you can play, towards your strengths in the biggest market opportunities? Like I find myself incredibly lucky that, you know, 17 years ago said I'm going to go and have a career in tech because none of my friends, the people I grew up with, did that. And it's just a lucky accident, for me. So like just knowing where the trends are heading to is important for like the youth.
Yeah. I mean, I can give a couple of thoughts on in India and AI. And generally, I've been somewhat public about this too, and some people have not liked it. But I think, unlike other things, other kinds of technology in the past, where you could create a local economy with that technology. I mean, for example, you had your even sharing services and the gig working boom. So Oyo, existed in India just like an Airbnb would, or you have an Ola just like an Uber. You can create local versions of those businesses that work for that area, and you're not really competing unless that other company comes and tries to compete in that area. On AI, I don't think there is any local advantage. So I think everyone is competing on the same playing field. And there are a couple of common things that come up that people say, hey, these could potentially be local advantages. Like one is, okay, let's get data for languages in India. Like, yeah, that's great. I think that's perfectly valid. If Google doesn't pour more resources and try to get the same thing and you have an advantage, that makes sense. I like that view. But for most other things, I think I would love to see, I would say, India try to compete on that global scale. And that needs capital, that needs talent, that needs just a desire to want to be on the cutting edge. And in my mind, it's not there yet. I mean, I think that's empirical. None of the top models are Indian models. They're American and they're Chinese. In any field, I mean, audio, video, image. So I would say in the global playing field of AI, I mean, the most prominent Indian figures are probably like somebody like an Arvind at Perplexity, or maybe some of the researchers at some of these labs and things like that. So therefore, in my opinion, today, I wouldn't say they're competing at a global level. I don't know if they have people on the ground have ambition to, but I think there's a couple of gaps to be filled, and if you do have that ambition.
I mean, the ambition is definitely there. What can India do to get competitive in this realm?
I think one of the things that is, I'll say an observation first and I'll answer the question. I think one of the observations I have in general about how India reacts to technology is India reacted to AI like, I want to be a part of this well after this was a thing. And that general mindset will rarely make you win at a thing. And so if you compare that to China, for example, I mean, there are many differences. I mean, China has had so much local talent, so much development in math, so much research in AI for many, many years, pre-LLMs, that allowed them to then capitalize on that and go like, okay, look, we can probably do something here too. We have the base built out. And I think for India to do something in AI, like, I don't know if a lot of that base is built out. There's a huge talent leakage problem. Most of the top AI talent in India is here, right? And literally a 3 square mile radius from where we are. There's a talent problem. There's a comp problem. Why would an AI researcher want to be paid in rupees? I don't. I want to be paid $1 million or $100 million like they're getting paid here. And then there's a general systemic problem on just capital is a little bit harder to get, and then resources are harder to get, and then people haven't done work on GPUs in India. If you go into Bangalore today, how many people have ever programmed a GPU? Very hard to do anything in AI if you've never programmed a GPU. If you're starting from scratch, you're going to have to catch up. So I think there's a lot of systemic factors, and then to solve that problem, invest in core research, figure out how to keep talent in the country, and you would have to do it a long time before something picks up for you to be able to take advantage of that. There's no accident that China was able to take advantage of that. They had a lot of foundation built in many, many years. So that's my take.
I've spent half my life here, most of my professional life, all my professional life here. So I don't have a view on the India market. I mean, a lot of things DD says I echo, but I do think we have to I think India has a 2-decade advantage from a pure median age perspective. Like the youngest talent in the world is in India right now, and I feel like if you don't capture it in the next 2 decades, like that shifts to Africa or shifts to the next country. And I don't know what the answer is, but I would love to see us capture the advantage there, at least from a pure being in the prime perspective. India is in its prime from a population standpoint, and like the depth of talent and the depth of young people. So that's one. That's the optimistic side. Now, what do you do with it is the main problem. But I kind of echo differently than Didi. Like, you don't need the best AI researcher. I mean, it would be great if India had a lot of great AI researchers and they all stay there. But the brain drain problem has been true for the past 50 years and will continue to stay true. All the best Indian entrepreneurs I know are trying to move here. But you try to figure out like where in the playing field do you play? Like, Freshworks is a great example where they took a product but figured out the right markets for it. Is there products in this new AI application era, or are there products in the biotech space? India has insane amount of talent in hospitals and vaccines, like centers out there, like manufacturing side. Take manufacturing as a sector, the China N+1 model can really benefit India. So take the sectors it's going to be phenomenal at, and then go from the very bottom up to the top and see how can you allocate capital, people, training to win those markets versus play the Me Too movement. I feel like a lot of Indians I meet in India just have this envy and they look at the US market and they want to be in the US market versus play the games you're going to be excellent at and then find ways to
Which are?
I mean, the things I mentioned again, but I don't know the India market as well. It's but I do believe the China N+1 is happening. It's 100% happening from manufacturing.
Not in AI.
Not in AI. But that's what I'm saying. Don't miss the AI boat, but play on the application level, which I think India still has fantastic product engineers and designers who can go build that. That's a talent that is easily portable from the pre-AI era. And then pick the markets where it's going to be excellent at. I don't know if that's minerals. I don't know if that's mining. I don't know if that's robotics. I don't know the India market, but instead of playing the Me Too side, hey, I want to do this also, find it's going to be excellent at, and then concentrate capital in people there.
Wouldn't you guys just say that now is probably the best time it's ever been for a young prospective founder to ever become active in India? Because, access to knowledge.
Relatively.
Relatively, yeah.
To our own past.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So access to knowledge, thanks to your podcast and everyone, being part of the global internet generation, it's no longer a problem.
Yeah.
The size of the local market, it's been, larger than it's ever been. There are enough, India for the world companies that are now setting the bar pretty high. There are enough very successful founders on the ground, like yourself, or like over here in the US, that anyone can look up to. So I would be, very excited to not even consider, moving to the US or maybe come here for a couple of years and then go back and build.
By the way, just on that previous one, I want to say, I was just talking about foundational AI layer for apps and everything else in the AI layer, 100%. Many reasons to do stuff in India. So that
could that be the bigger market tomorrow?
100%.
It is already, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I don't understand, for example, why India doesn't have more amazing gaming companies, that could be global
Because if the
leaders
amount of
for the
money required to build like a AAA game is substantial and the risk capital for that is not there.
But you don't need AAA games.
But I
right?
think exactly, yeah. I think the future of gaming is largely not going to be AAA. Like in a world where everyone is part of the internet generation, the more brains you have online, the more creativity you can unlock with AI. Everyone has superpowers. Can we have, next generation of like, TikTok games, whatever that means, from like somebody who is like 15 years old and they've been making stuff online for the previous 7 years somewhere in India? That's more likely than ever before.
I've thought about this a lot, and I've tried to arrive at what the answer to that particular question could be.
Yeah.
I think it's cultural.
Mm.
We, as Indians, from a very young age, are taught to run away from risk. We are trained not to depict any form of rebellion. Our teachers are not our teachers. Our teachers are our gods, where questioning them is almost offending them. Religion plays a huge part in our cultural biases as well. So we have, to some extent, nobody's going to like this answer, but we have to some extent become a society which does not cherish or encourage contesting the norms of the day. And I think that's bad for innovation.
Is it changing?
I hope it is. I hope it is. I don't know if evidence depicts that, but I hope it is because we
Access
have
to-
to change.
With access to education, I mean, ChatGPT's number one market is now India. Like just like those kind of, like with geo, like kind of everybody having access to the internet. Like now it's like, fact checking and, people say something. I'm curious.
I think the internet teaches you many things, but I think culture is more a factor of our schools and what we see in our homes.
Fair enough.